Hey everyone, and welcome to our deep dive on Yuval Noah Harari's Sapiens.
Oh, this is going to be fun.
It is a really, really fascinating book. It's a wild ride through the entirety of human history.
The whole thing.
And we're here to pull out the most fascinating and thought-provoking pieces for you. So get ready for some serious aha moments.
Yeah, one of the things that I think is so striking about Sapiens is how Harari really challenges that kind of traditional narrative we have about human progress.
Yeah.
He really encourages us to question, whether our ascent to dominance has actually been, this linear march toward a better life.
Yeah, right from the start, he throws us this curveball with this idea that humans were actually mid-level predators for most of our existence.
Wrong.
I mean, we like to think of ourselves as the kings and queens of the jungle, but
not so much.
We were just scrappy underdogs for a very long time.
Yeah, it's humbling to think about, isn't it? For millions of years, we were just trying to survive, hunting small game and gathering what we could, all while avoiding becoming dinner for larger predators. Right. It wasn't until relatively recently, evolutionarily speaking, that we started punching above our weight.
It makes you wonder how that prolonged period of vulnerability shaped our development.
Right.
Did it push us to evolve our social skills and intelligence as a way to outsmart bigger, stronger creatures?
That's a fascinating question, and one that Harari explores in depth. It's likely that our ability to cooperate and communicate effectively gave us a real advantage in a world full of dangers.
Right.
And then around 100,000 years ago, Homo sapiens takes center stage and things really start to change.
And that's where the Neanderthals come in, right?
Yeah.
I was surprised to learn that they actually beat us in our first recorded encounter in the Levant.
Oh, yeah.
What happened there? Why didn't they prevail?
Well, the reasons for Neanderthal extinction are still debated. But Harari suggests that sapiens may have had a few key advantages.
Okay.
Our tools and hunting strategies were more advanced. But perhaps more importantly, our capacity for social organization and communication allowed us to form larger, more complex groups. This gave us an edge in competing for resources and adapting to changing environments.
So it's not just about brute strength, it's about collaboration and communication. We were able to outsmart and outmaneuver our competition.
I think so, yeah.
But what really catapulted us to a whole other level was the cognitive revolution. Can you break down exactly what happened there?
Yeah, the cognitive revolution remains one of the biggest mysteries in human history.
Huge.
Sometime between 70,000 and 30,000 years ago, sapiens underwent this profound shift in their cognitive abilities.
Yeah.
The most widely accepted theory is that random genetic mutations led to a rewiring of the human brain, giving rise to a new form of language and the ability to think abstractly.
So suddenly we could not only communicate about the physical world around us, but we could also imagine things that didn't exist, share stories, and create shared beliefs.
Exactly. This new language, with its capacity for abstract thought and symbolism, was revolutionary. It allowed sapiens to transmit knowledge, plan complex hunts, and most importantly, believe in things they couldn't see or touch.
And that's where Harari's idea of imagined realities comes in, right?
It is.
This ability to believe in collective myths, things like gods, nations, and even money, is what really sets us apart from other animals.
It's a profound insight. Think about it. Money in its physical form is just paper or metal.
Right.
But because we collectively agree on its value, it becomes this powerful tool for exchange shaping entire economies. The same goes for nations' laws and religions.
Right.
They exist because we believe in them and agree to abide by the rules we've created.
So our success as a species isn't just about our physical adaptations. It's about this incredible capacity for shared imagination, for creating stories and systems of belief that bind us together and allow us to cooperate on a massive scale.
Exactly. And that shared imagination allowed us to move beyond the constraints of our physical environment and create complex social structures, build cities, and ultimately dominate the planet.
Wow.
And that leads us to another pivotal moment in Harari's narrative, the agricultural revolution.
Yeah.
Around 10,000 years ago, we made the shift from foraging to farming.
Now, at first glance, this seems like a logical step forward. We settled down cultivated crops and created a more stable food supply.
Seems like it.
What's not to like?
Well, that's where Harari challenges our assumptions.
Yeah.
He asks this really provocative question. What if the agricultural revolution was actually a trap?
A trap.
He argues that hunter-gatherers enjoyed a more diverse diet, had more leisure time, and were generally healthier.
You mean instead of making our lives better, farming actually made them harder?
In some ways, yes.
I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
Well, consider this farming forced us to become more sedentary, leading to new health problems.
Oh.
Our diets became less diverse, relying on a limited number of crops, which made us more vulnerable to famine. And as we became tied to the land, social hierarchies emerged, with some accumulating more wealth and power than others.
So we traded the freedom and flexibility of a nomadic lifestyle for the security, but also the constraints of settled agriculture. It's like we made a deal with the devil, gaining a more stable food supply, but losing something in the process.
That's a great way to put it. And that brings us to the idea of the luxury trap.
Okay, the luxury trap?
Luxuries quickly turn into necessities, creating new anxieties and dependencies.
Yeah.
We've seen this throughout history.
Okay, give me an example of this luxury trap in action.
Let's take the invention of email.
Okay.
Initially, it was seen as a way to speed up communication and free up our time.
Right.
But what happened? We ended up spending more time tethered to our inboxes, feeling obligated to respond instantly and constantly bombarded with information.
Yeah.
The technology that was supposed to liberate us ended up trapping us in this new cycle of demands.
So in a way, we became slaves to our own creations. We constantly crave the next upgrade, the next convenience, and never quite feel satisfied.
It's a pattern we see over and over again.
And I bet you could draw a parallel between that and the agricultural revolution. Once we had a surplus of food, we started wanting more land, more possessions, and got stuck in the cycle of working harder and harder.
Yeah, exactly. It's a pattern that repeats throughout history. We become accustomed to a certain standard of living, and then we can't imagine living without it, even if that means sacrificing our freedom, our health, or our connection to the natural world.
This all makes me wonder how we as a species make these choices that shape our destiny. I mean, if we step back and look at the big picture, is humanity really any better off now than we were 10,000 years ago? It's a question that's going to stay with me.
And that's one of the brilliant things about Sapiens. It forces us to grapple with these big, uncomfortable questions. It challenges our assumptions about progress and forces us to consider the unintended consequences of our choices. Welcome back. Before the break, we were discussing the luxury trap and how advancements, while seemingly positive, can sometimes lead to new anxieties and dependencies. This ties in directly with Harari's discussion of imagined orders, one of the most intriguing concepts in Sapiens.
Okay, remind me about imagined orders. I remember being struck by this idea when I first read the book.
Essentially, it's the realization that so much of what we consider real nations' laws, economic systems, are actually collective myths that exist only because we agree they do.
Yeah.
They don't have a physical reality outside of our shared belief in them.
It's like that saying money doesn't grow on trees, but in this case it's money doesn't exist on trees or anywhere really except in our minds.
Exactly. A dollar bill, a gold bar, they have no inherent value.
Yeah.
It's the collective belief in their worth that gives them power. This shared belief allows us to cooperate on a massive scale, building empires and global trade networks. It's both incredibly powerful and kind of mind-boggling.
Harari uses the example of the Code of Hammurabi, one of the earliest known legal codes, to illustrate this point. It laid out a strict hierarchy with the king at the top and slaves at the bottom. Then he contrasts that with the American Declaration of Independence, which declares that all men are created equal.
Both are examples of imagined order systems of belief that shape how societies function. But they offer completely different visions of justice and social order.
And neither one is objectively true in a scientific sense. They're just stories we tell ourselves to create a sense of stability and meaning.
Precisely. And that brings us to the rise of empires. Harari points out that for the last 2,500 years, empires have been the most dominant form of political organization.
Which is interesting because we tend to think of empires as a thing of the past, but their legacy continues to shape our world in profound ways, right?
Absolutely. Most of us speak languages, follow laws, and even hold beliefs that have been shaped by past empires. Even those who resisted empires often ended up adopting aspects of the dominant culture.
Harari uses the example of modern India, which gained independence from the British Empire, but still carries many legacies of colonial rule in its institutions, its language, even its national identity.
It's a complex and often contradictory relationship, and it highlights how empires, despite their often brutal methods, were remarkably successful at spreading their culture and shaping the world in their image.
Speaking of empires and their impact, let's shift gears and dive into the fascinating world of money. I remember Harari's exploration of how money evolved from simple barter systems to the complex financial markets we have today being a real eye-opener.
It's a fascinating story, and one that's full of twists and turns. Harari uses colorful examples like the Mississippi Bubble to show how the belief in money can lead to both incredible booms and devastating busts.
Okay, back up. What was the Mississippi Bubble?
Imagine a company promising unimaginable riches, from a far-off land, in this case the Mississippi Valley. They issue shares, people get caught up in the hype, and the price of those shares skyrockets. Sound familiar?
Kind of like a modern-day tech startup promising to revolutionize the world.
Exactly. But then reality sets in. The promised riches fail to materialize, the bubble bursts, and investors are left holding worthless paper. The Mississippi bubble was one of the first major financial crises in history, and it demonstrates how the power of money is inextricably linked to our collective beliefs and expectations.
So it's a reminder that money, for all its power to facilitate trade and create wealth, can also be a source of instability and even destruction.
Precisely. But Harari also highlights how money, despite its potential for corruption, has been a driving force behind innovation and social progress. It's enabled us to create complex economic systems, fund scientific research, and even lift millions out of poverty.
It's a double-edged sword, that's for sure. And it makes you wonder what role money will play in shaping our future as we enter this new era of technological advancements.
That's a great segue into our next topic, the Industrial Revolution. Harari argues that this wasn't just about inventing new machines, it was about a fundamental shift in how we interacted with energy.
Okay, explain that. How did the Industrial Revolution change our relationship with energy?
Think about it. We learned to harness the power of coal to create steam, which drove machines. Then came electricity, opening up a whole new realm of possibilities. The Industrial Revolution allowed us to convert one type of energy into another, and this principle has been the driving force behind technological progress ever since.
It's fascinating to think that something as seemingly simple as understanding how to convert energy could have such a profound impact on the course of human history.
And it's not just about machines. The Industrial Revolution led to mass production organization and the creation of global supply chains. It fundamentally reshaped how we live, work, and interact with the world.
But as with many advancements, there's a darker side to this story. Harari doesn't shy away from exploring the negative consequences of industrialization, particularly its impact on the environment and the exploitation of animals.
Unfortunately, yes. The demand for cheap food and other products led to the rise of factory farms, where animals are treated as commodities, confined to cramped spaces, and denied their natural behaviors. Harari's description of the conditions endured by nursing sows, confined in crates so small they can't even turn around, is particularly disturbing.
It's a stark reminder that progress often comes at a cost. And it makes you question whether the benefits of industrialization outweigh the ethical implications.
It's a question we need to grapple with as we continue to develop new technologies and push the boundaries of what's possible.
And speaking of pushing boundaries, let's move on to the scientific revolution. Harari argues that this revolution marked a fundamental shift from knowledge based on tradition and authority to knowledge based on observation, experimentation, and reason.
It was a radical departure from the way humans had understood the world for millennia. Instead of relying on religious texts or the pronouncements of kings and priests, scientists began to question everything, demanding evidence and testing their theories through observation and experimentation.
And this new way of thinking had a profound impact on our understanding of the universe, right? It challenged religious dogma, led to incredible breakthroughs in medicine and technology, and laid the groundwork for the modern world.
Absolutely. The scientific revolution was a pivotal moment in human history. It wasn't just about acquiring new knowledge, it was about changing our entire approach to knowledge and authority.
It's amazing to think how far we've come since those early days of scientific inquiry. But Harari also points out that science, for all its power, has limitations. It can tell us how the universe works, but it can't tell us why we're here or what our purpose is.
That's an important point. Science can explain the physical world, but it can't provide answers to questions of meaning and value. Those questions remain in the realm of philosophy, religion, and personal belief.
So we've covered a lot of ground here, from imagined orders to empires, the power of money, and the transformative revolutions of industry and science. I'm curious, what are some of the key takeaways that have resonated with you so far?
One of the things that stands out to me is the realization that progress is not a simple linear process. It's messy, complex, and often comes with unintended consequences. We've made incredible strides in understanding the world and improving our lives, but we've also created new challenges and ethical dilemmas.
I agree. It's not a straightforward story of triumph and progress. There have been trade-offs, sacrifices, and unintended consequences along the way.
And I think Harari's main point is that we need to be more conscious and deliberate about the choices we make. We need to think critically about the systems we create, the technologies we develop, and the impact our actions have on the planet and all its inhabitants.
He's urging us to take responsibility for the future, not just blindly embrace progress without considering the potential downsides. It's a powerful message, and it leads us to the ultimate question: what does it all mean for human happiness? Has all this progress from the agricultural revolution to the scientific revolution actually made us happier?
That's a question we'll delve into after the break. We'll explore Harari's fascinating perspective on the relationship between material prosperity and happiness and what it might mean for our future as a species. Stay with us.
Welcome back to our deep dive into Yuval Noah Harari's Sapiens. Before the break, we were talking about the complexities of progress and how it's not always a straightforward path to a better life.
Right, and that leads us to a question that Harari really grapples with throughout the book. Has all of our progress from mastering fire to splitting the atom actually made us any happier?
It's a question that's been debated by philosophers for centuries, but Harari brings kind of a fresh perspective to it, weaving together insights from history, biology, and even economics.
Yeah, he argues that happiness isn't just about our external circumstances, it's also about our internal state, like our expectations, and how those expectations align with our reality.
So it's not just about how much stuff we have or how comfortable our lives are. It's about whether our reality matches up to that picture of happiness we have in our minds.
Exactly. And to illustrate this, he uses this really thought-provoking example of a medieval peasant versus a modern banker.
Okay.
So the peasant's life, it was hard, full of physical labor and uncertainty. The banker, on the other hand, enjoys material wealth and security that the peasant could only dream of.
But would the banker necessarily be happier than the peasant?
That's the key question. Harari suggests that the peasant, with their simpler life and limited expectations, might actually experience a deeper sense of contentment than the banker who's constantly bombarded with messages about what they should have and achieve.
It's like that saying, comparison is the thief of joy. We're constantly measuring ourselves against others, against idealized images in the media, and even against our own past experiences.
Right, and this can lead to this cycle of wanting and striving that never really ends. You achieve a certain level of success, but then our expectations rise, and we're left wanting more. It's what Harari calls the hedonic treadmill. We just keep running and running, but never quite reach a state of lasting happiness.
So if material wealth and achievement don't guarantee happiness, what does? I'm eager to hear what insights Harari offers on this age-old question.
Well, he doesn't offer like a simple formula for happiness, but he suggests that it's more likely to be found in things like meaningful relationships, a sense of purpose, and a connection to something larger than ourselves.
Which is interesting because it ties back to his earlier discussion about the power of imagined realities. Religions, nations, even the belief in human rights, these collective myths give us a sense of belonging, purpose, and meaning.
Exactly. And while those realities might be imagined, in the sense that they don't exist outside of our collective belief in them, they can have a profound impact on our well-being. They provide a framework for our lives, a set of values to guide our actions, and a sense of connection to a larger community.
So in a way, those stories we tell ourselves, those imagined realities, can actually contribute to our happiness by giving us a sense of purpose and belonging.
Precisely.
Yeah.
They help us make sense of the world, find our place in it, and connect with others who share our beliefs.
This makes me think about how, throughout history, humans have always sought meaning and purpose, whether through religion, philosophy, or art. It seems like an essential part of the human experience.
Absolutely.
Oh.
And as we move further into this era of rapid technological advancements, it's more important than ever to ask ourselves what truly matters.
Yeah.
What kind of future do we want to create? What values will guide us?
Because, as we've discussed, progress isn't always a force for good. It can lead to exploitation, environmental destruction, and even the dehumanization of our own species.
Yeah, Harari doesn't shy away from those darker aspects of our history and the potential pitfalls of unchecked technological advancement. He cautions us to be mindful of the choices we make, recognizing that our actions have consequences that ripple far beyond our immediate intentions.
He uses a powerful analogy of a train speeding toward an unknown destination. We're all passengers on this train, and we've built up incredible speed with our technological advancements. But do we have a clear sense of where we're going, or what will happen when we get there?
It's a thought-provoking image. We're hurtling forward, caught up in the excitement of innovation. But are we heading toward a destination that will truly benefit humanity and the planet?
It makes you wonder if we need to hit the pause button, step back, and reassess our direction.
Maybe.
Are we on the right track, or do we need to make some course corrections?
I think that's the central challenge of our time. How do we harness the power of our ingenuity and technological prowess while also staying grounded in our values, our ethics, and our responsibility to the future?
Harari reminds us that we're not just passive passengers on this train. We have the ability to choose our destination to shape the future. But to do that effectively, we need to be conscious, deliberate, and compassionate.
I agree.
We need to ask ourselves some tough questions. What does it mean to be human in an age of AI? What are the ethical boundaries of genetic engineering? How do we ensure that progress benefits all of humanity, not just a privileged few?
These are questions that we, as a species, need to grapple with now before it's too late. The choices we make today will determine the course of our future.
And Harari's book provides a framework for thinking about these challenges, for understanding our past, and for navigating the complexities of the present. It's a call to action, a reminder that we have the power to shape our destiny, but we need to do so wisely and with compassion.
It really is.
Sapiens is a book that stays with you long after you finish reading it. It challenges our assumptions, expands our understanding of ourselves, and leaves us with a profound sense of both the possibilities and the perils of being human.
And ultimately, it leaves us with a sense of hope. We have the power to create a better future, but it's up to us to make the right choices.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Sapiens. We hope it sparked your curiosity and inspired you to think deeply about the big questions facing humanity.